Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the Connecticut Green Bank's first quarterly update webinar for 2025. My name is Rudy Sirk, the Director of Marketing and Communications, and today I will be joined by a number of colleagues on our presentation. We'll introduce them along the way. But first, a few housekeeping items before we start. We are recording today's session, and we will send out a follow-up email to everyone who registered with the link to the recording and other resources that we will mention on the presentation. We will start out with a few organizational updates and then go into our solution lines to provide program level updates. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please put them into the question box. We will do our best to answer them at the end of the session. If they're ones that we don't get to or ones that we think are better individually answered one-to-one, we will do that in a follow-up message directly to those who asked the question. So now, without any further introduction, I'm going to turn this over to Green Bank President and CEO, Brian Garcia.
All right. Thank you for that introduction there, Rudy. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning for some. So I think many of you know who the Connecticut Green Bank is, so I'm not going to spend much time here beyond just kind of stating our mission. Our mission is to confront climate change, and we do that by increasing and accelerating investment. Investment is the key input into our system that delivers all the outputs and outcomes that we're after, obviously creating more resilient, healthier, and equitable communities. Our vision is a planet protected by the love of humanity. We can't have environmentalism without humanitarianism, and I think you'll see a lot of that throughout today's update in terms of the various programs and initiatives that we're undertaking. Let's go to the next slide. Overall, in terms of our goals as an organization, I think when people think of green banks, they think of how we take a limited amount of public resources to scale up and mobilize a lot of private investment into our economy. So again, it's really important that we enable investment. That is the key input into the system. If we were to look at the level of capital globally required to confront climate change, I think it's $3 to $6 trillion a year by the year 2030. We're at about $1.2 trillion a year today. We have a ways to go, so we need to use our public resources very wisely so that we unlock multiples of private investment. Second, we have a goal to pursue investment strategies that advance market transformation. We're going to hear a lot about that today when we hear David talk about our Green Liberty Note. So I will save that for him to dig in deeper there. And then, of course, with all of this investment, we look to strengthen Connecticut's communities, especially vulnerable communities. I'll talk about vulnerable communities here in a second, by making the benefits of this investment in the green economy inclusive and accessible to all individuals, families, and businesses. All right, let's go to the next slide, Rudy. All right, you're going to hear a number of our solutions today as we cover various programs. If you think about the different channels that we work, from supporting families through our home solutions line of products to businesses, nonprofit organizations, through our building solutions and the like. So we're going to dig in deep into a number of these here today. Let's go to the next slide. For those of you who were following us, you may have seen that we issued our FY24 annual report at the end of last year. So this is what, Rudy, I think our 13th report since we were founded as part of Section 99 of Public Act 1180 in July of 2011. We were happy with last year, I think was one of our biggest years ever. Some over $400 million of investment will happen as a result of the activities in fiscal year 2024. You could see a note there from the governor who really digs in and focuses on the message of resilience and the importance of resilience. But just a number of projects that I wanted to highlight that you will see in the report. Last year was a big year for fuel cells for the Connecticut Green Bank. Many of you may know the fuel cell industry here in Connecticut is an industry that manufactures stationary fuel cells. We have a number of globally leading companies, and fuel cells provide high reliable power and clean power to support our state's various clean energy policies. So we helped support a microgrid project at the U.S. Naval Subbase in Groton, working there with CMEC, working with a number of our private capital partners to bring private investment into those projects so that the subbase can isolate itself as a microgrid using fuel cells. We also feature several projects in Derby, Connecticut, including a grid-tied fuel cell, as well as, I think, the first community fuel cell in the country. A lot of us talk about community solar. We are helping support community fuel cells. This is through Connecticut's Shared Clean Energy Facilities program. It's a 2.8 megawatt project in Derby, Connecticut. So where the subscriber credits to support low to moderate income families with solar deliver some value. With fuel cells, we get 6 times more value to low to moderate income families. So literally we go from hundreds of families who would have been supported by a 3.8 megawatt solar project to thousands of families supported by fuel cells. So we're super excited by last year's number of different fuel cell investment activities. I think the low to moderate income series of investments that we made was the highest of all investment activity last year. One project that I'm specifically that I love a lot is the project at Meadow Ridge. You can kind of see it there on that page, the upper right-hand corner. That is Susan Oslander, also known as Green Granny, who led an effort of her senior assisted living center to install an over 700 kW solar project, including carports. With Verigy, with the Connecticut Green Bank. She really had to fight for that project with her fellow tenants. And as a result of that project, they're going to save $3.5 million over the 20-year project life. So super good to see that. And we're going to take those lessons into the multifamily affordable housing space, which we're going to hear Emily talk about here in a second. Let's go to the next slide, Rudy. So just on some of the metric things, this is a bit of wonky stuff, but I think folks out there are interested in these sorts of outputs and outcomes as a result of all this investment. So we are close to $3 billion of investment that the Green Bank has enabled in our 13 years. From an economic development perspective, we work with the Department of Economic and Community Development to assess the direct, indirect, and induced job years that are created as a result of the investment in clean energy. We also work with the Department of Revenue Services to estimate the individual corporate sales and property tax revenues that come from that investment. So really important economic development metrics that come with our investment in the green economy. Of course, we are after seeing more deployment of clean energy to help families and businesses reduce the burden of energy costs, to increase their energy security, and we've helped nearly 80,000, we're approaching 80,000 currently, by helping deploy over 700 megawatts of projects. For the most part, a lot of that are behind the meter, probably over 600 of that is behind the meter, maybe more. But we know behind the meter helps reduce energy costs for families and businesses. Let's go to the next slide. On the environmental protection slide, we know the more clean energy that is out there being deployed and producing clean energy results in the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions as well as criteria pollutants. We work with DEEP as well as the EPA through their avoided emission reduction tool to estimate the avoided emissions as a result. We also work with our Department of Public Health here in Connecticut, along with the EPA tools, to take their co-benefit risk assessment tool that as you reduce air pollution as a result of more clean energy deployment, you actually improve public health. So we can estimate the public health avoided savings as a result of cleaner air. So lots of fun in those tools. Take a look. There's a link there. Folks can check those further out. Equity is our fourth E, also really, really important. We have a goal as an organization that by 2025, no less than 40% of investment will be directed to vulnerable communities. Vulnerable communities, as I was alluding to before, has a statutory definition. It is part of Public Act 20-05, the Take Back Our Grid Act. as a result of Tropical Storm Isaias. You all might recall the special session that was held in the fall of 2020. Vulnerable communities was a definition that was adopted as part of that act, and you'll see a number of different things that are in that vulnerable communities definition. The big one that we really lean into, because a lot of what we do, remember, is to try to unlock private investment, is we really lean into the CRA eligible communities. This is the Community Reinvestment Act eligible communities. CRA is a national policy that was signed into law in 1977 by the late President Jimmy Carter. It looks at investments in less than 80% area median income census tracts. So you can see we're at 20%. We have a stretch goal of trying to get to 40%. We also quantify how we would be doing with all of that investment if we were to look at federal definitions. Low income and disadvantaged communities, or as you can see there in the footnote, those communities that are located in the climate and economic justice screening tool, as well as the environmental justice screening tools, we would be at 32%. So CRA is a little harder than LIDACs, but we are working really hard to unlock more private investment in our most vulnerable communities. All right, let's go to the next slide there, Rudy. I think I'm going to wrap it up and turn it back to you after I talk about our annual comprehensive financial report. So as I was talking about the annual report that we released at the end of last year, 2024, of course, we have behind all that glossy annual report is a 400-page financial and non-financial statistics audited in both ways. Financial statistics and non-financial statistics are separately audited report. This is probably one of the most comprehensive reports you will ever see. This is our 10th year issuing it to the Government Finance Officers Association. We've received their highest award in governmental financial accounting as a result of that. All of our secrets are in that report. So check it out. Lots of good things on how programs are implemented, all the data, who's benefiting from it, and the like. Also on the right there is the Auditors of Public Account. Many of you don't know that we every other year go through an audit through our state auditors that are looking at significant internal controls over compliance and our own compliance with policies and procedures that are internal to the organization. They also look at the effectiveness, economy, efficiency, and equity on certain management practices that we undertake. And as you can see there, and you can link over to the report, we had 0 findings, 0 repeat findings in this biannual audit. So we do a lot of that. Ultimately, we want to attract private investment into more clean energy deployment to realize all of the benefits that we are after. And you're going to hear about some of that right now as we transition over to the program team. All right, back to you, Rudy.
Great, thank you, Brian. So first, we are going to move into our home solutions programs. And the first of those that we'll talk about is energy storage solutions, and then we'll talk about Smarty Loan. So now I'm going to turn it over to Ed Kranich, Senior Manager of Incentive Programs, to talk about the Energy Storage Solutions Program. Ed?
Muted. All right. Thanks, Rudy. I'm going to turn on my camera here to say hi for a sec. So next slide, please. All right, so just a quick overview on energy storage solutions for those who aren't familiar. It's a program that was created by the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority back in 2021, and it launched in 2022. It's administered by the Connecticut Green Bank along with both Eversource and UI. It has a program goal of 580 megawatts of total deployed behind the meter storage over a 9-year run. And in the next slide, I'll get to where we are on that. So in the program right now, we have 2 types of incentives, of which most customers go for both. And the program is really unique compared to most DER programs in the country, in that we have both passive dispatch and active dispatch. So passive dispatch is where you agree to have your battery pre-programmed to dispatch during certain times in the summer for 10 years. And active dispatch is just like a traditional demand response type program where events are called and your battery can respond and you get paid as you go. The difference is that with passive dispatch, you earn your money up front, or you receive your incentive payment up front, and you keep it by participating in passive dispatch. And active dispatch is the traditional type incentive where you earn based on the season, based on your performance of your battery and how much you contribute to reducing peak load during the summer and winter seasons. Both types of enrollment have a 10-year enrollment in the program. So next slide, please. So where are we for 2025? We did actually have some pretty major changes for this year that were approved back in December from PURA. The main one is that we're shortening our passive dispatch window. So now it kind of looks a little bit more like active dispatch. For those who are familiar with the program, this probably make a little bit more sense. But we do have some new formulas for measuring compliance and kind of how the passive and active dispatch sort of all plays in together. We have a webinar scheduled for next Wednesday, February 5th at 12 p.m. You can find info on how to join that webinar that goes over all the changes to the program. That's on energystorageCT.com. There's a link there. And if anybody has any trouble finding it or wants to reach out, you could certainly reach out to us at energystorage@ctgreenbank.com. Also noteworthy for this year is that we have new commercial incentives. For those who attended our last stakeholder webinar back in June or July, we had mentioned that the commercial incentives were paused for the time being. That was to help us sort of re-gauge how we're incentivizing commercial projects. Not only have we decreased them slightly, 9% for this round, we've also added more capacity to the commercial goal. So now instead of being split 50-50 between residential and commercial, both having an equal shot at that 580 megawatts, it's now 150 megawatts of residential. We've borrowed some of that capacity, and 430 of commercial capacity. So we have more space, a slightly lower incentive, so we're hoping that we can do more with a little bit less on the C&I side. So next slide, please. And finally, just a couple updates on the program progress and where we are as of today. So on the residential side, we have 772 units, which includes 160 units of multifamily affordable housing for about 6.75 megawatts of approved projects in the program. So pretty exciting. We're kind of just passing the halfway point of our first tranche, or of our first step in the first tranche rather. And that does include some of the active only customers. So some of these Tesla customers who were able to enroll just in the active dispatch portion of the program. On the commercial side, I also want to call out, of those 772 units, 272 of those units qualify as either underserved or low income. So we're getting pretty close. We're at about a quarter, a little more than a quarter of the way with reaching that 40% goal. The program has a 40% underserved customer goal. On the commercial and industrial side, we have 70 buildings, 142 megawatts. And as I stated before, the tranche 3 just opened in December. So we're accepting new applications now for new projects. And since the last webinar, a few exciting additions to our list of eligible equipment. We have solar edge equipment finally, Briggs & Stratton, and some equipment from Endure Energy. So we're building out a nice list here, hoping to give customers lots of options to join the program with. Finally, I just want to plug a few contractor trainings that are coming up. We have one this Thursday, January 30th at noon. And the next one, they're monthly trainings. There is February 27th at noon. So you can visit energystoragect.com to find more info about upcoming webinars and trainings. And finally, our team, our whole team here will be at RE+ Northeast in Boston, February 11th through the 13th. So we will have a small table among the large exhibitors hall. So if you're going to be in the area, stop by and see us. So thanks, and I will turn it back over to Rudy.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you for that update. Now I will provide a quick update on the Smarty Loan, which is our flagship program for homeowners. It was launched in 2013, now has helped nearly 9,000 families make improvements to their homes that have included energy efficiency, increased comfort, resilience to climate change. We offer it through a network of participating contractors and lenders. So in the first 6 months of this fiscal year, since July, we've issued roughly $13 million in loans. And that includes the first of our resilience projects to come through the pipeline. While the majority of our projects have always been heating and cooling, energy efficiency, solar, it's great to see that the new resilience measures that were launched last year are starting to have projects come through and get completed. As a reminder, these resilience measures include things like storm protection, which can be high impact glass windows or storm shutters, flood proofing, things like French drains or replacing surfaces that flood, drinking water quality issues. So if you have lead pipes or galvanized pipes that need to be replaced, or improvements to private wells, or connecting to public water where it's available, those things can now be financed through Smarty, as well as landscaping things like removing dead trees. All of those were announced earlier last April in the spring of 24, but we're excited now to roll out another new measure, which is septic systems. So if there are contractors listening or homeowners, anyone who has a septic system that might need repair or replacement, keep in mind that Smarty can now be used for this purpose. We're starting to onboard contractors now and hope to have some in the program and offering it in the coming months. But before I go on any farther, I would like to take a second to recognize our lending partners who had really stepped up their performance in calendar year 2024. Their volume increased in that year, and we can't thank them enough for what they do. So you can see the lender logos on the screen here, these 6 currently in the program, and all the contractors, of course, that bring in the projects. With more than 300 contractors in the program, we certainly can't share all their logos or mention them by name, but we definitely appreciate all that they do for Smarty on a day-to-day basis. And before I turn it over to our next speaker, I just wanted to mention a case study that we put on our website recently to showcase a project that has been making an impact. On the screen, you see Ron. He reached out to me a couple of years ago to tell me about the projects that he was making on his family's home. He had been in the broadcasting business for many years and had seen the impacts of climate change firsthand. So he and his wife created a plan for their home and started making improvements little by little. They started with an energy audit and then have been improving their home, which you can see in the background in the photo. It's, an older home, but probably a typical Connecticut home in a lot of ways. And they've added windows, replaced insulation, they've sealed off drafts. They've since added heat pumps, gone solar, and added battery storage, and used a number of the programs that we're talking about today, including Smarty and some programs offered by Energize Connecticut. So if you have a chance, check out Ron's story. The link is on here, and we'll send out the link to that when we send out the follow-up information too. But it's a good example of how you can combine these programs with the plan for your home and really, make it a more comfortable, energy efficient place for you to live. So with that, I'm now going to turn the presentation over to Emily Basham, our Associate Director on the Financing Programs team, to talk about Solar Map.
Thanks, Rudy. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Emily Basham. I'm an Associate Director on the Financing Programs team at the Green Bank. And I manage our Solar MAP program, or the Solar Marketplace Assistance Program. We provide no-cost technical assistance to affordable multifamily housing, municipalities, and state agencies to help them navigate the solar and storage marketplace. We know there's a lot of steps to doing a solar project, so we offer this turnkey program to reduce the barriers, really be a partner through the sticking points, and make it easier to go through the process. Solar MAP is a turnkey program, so we offer the upfront technical assistance, project development services, financing, and we coordinate the incentives and the contractors. At the core, we're offering our flagship financing products, which don't require any upfront investment. So projects are providing energy savings from day one. And as noted here, we support state agencies, municipalities, and today we want to be sure to mention our recent expansion into affordable multifamily housing. Next slide, please. So a bit about the program steps. We start with a site analysis. Typically, we receive a list of locations from a town or a housing provider to review for solar potential. We do an analysis to identify which of those sites have the potential for a solar or storage project. And then we work with the relevant decision makers to select which sites they want to pursue and move forward with. The MAP team will conduct site visits, will run the financial modeling, and will develop system designs. We then present those project specs and the pricing proposal, offering the Green Bank's solar lease or power purchase agreement. Then we administer a competitive solicitation or an RFP for a qualified contractor to build the system. We are bundling projects together that are on a similar development timeline into portfolios, and this helps us achieve economies of scale in our solicitations and in our development process. And with a contractor on board, the Green Bank continues to manage all of the steps and development, construction, and energization of the project. So this also includes submitting for any eligible state and federal incentives. Next slide. So today we wanted to highlight the expansion of the program into the affordable multifamily space and the increased opportunities in this sector broadly for solar. We've been working the last few years to attract attention and activity in this sector after some legislative and regulatory changes. So this slide is not specific to the Green Banks program, but to the overall incentive environment in the state for these types of projects. So the definition of a residential customer changed to include qualified, affordable multifamily properties. So this means a few things for the development process. These projects are able to access the residential tariff program that's administered by the utilities, called the Residential Renewable Energy Solutions Program, or RRES. And that includes, that comes with it a few different adjustments for how the projects can be developed. First, they're able to receive the residential tariff, which is a richer incentive value than the commercial tariff. You can see on here, it's about 38 cents versus the commercial tariff, which is about 20 cents. So almost double the incentive value for a project. There's no cap on the number of residential tariff projects. So on the commercial side, it's a capped program, really driving a highly competitive selection of which projects can move forward each year. And projects can be sized to benefit all tenants and common space on the property, not just the owner's meter on a site. So we can build and size much more appropriately. And then a key provision of the RRES program for affordable multifamily is the requirement to share the financial benefits of the solar installation with the tenants. So sites where the tenant pays the utilities, the tenants will receive a 20% of the tariff value via on-bill credits. And sites where the owner pays the utilities, the net present value of 25% of the tariff will be set aside for an upfront upgrade to the facility. Next slide, please. So the Green Bank's solar lease product is an excellent fit for affordable multifamily properties and easily facilitates the property owner and the tenant receiving the RRES tariff without any upfront costs. These properties are often debt constrained and can't provide the capital outlay or take on debt for a purchase option. So the Green Bank's solar lease is a third-party ownership option. Although it's called a solar lease, it's really a revenue share agreement where we're splitting the project revenue between the Green Bank as the system owner, the property owner, and the tenants. So the Green Bank provides the upfront capital to build the system. We own and maintain the asset and bear the risk. And this spares the property owner from providing any capital, and they can just receive the financial benefits from a solar installation once it's energized. And tenants can also receive a financial benefit through on-bill credits or the building upgrade. So the Green Bank solar lease, it's a financing offering included and offered through the Solar Map program, but it's also available to the contractor network for any projects that they're developing as well. So we encourage contractors out there to take a look at this product as well if they're working in this space. And next slide, please. Lastly, we wanted to walk through a sample project to just help illustrate the opportunity for this sector. So this is a sample affordable multifamily site. It has multiple buildings on the campus. The system design here locates panels on the rooftop of select buildings. This conceptual system is about 300 kilowatts DC and projects a year one production of approximately 345,000 kilowatt hours. The financial benefits generated from the production of the system would deliver approximately $63,000 in year one. And per the RRES program rules, 20% of the benefits, or $25,000, is shared with the tenants, and $38,000 would go to the property owner. So over the 20-year term of the lease, $475,000 would go to the tenants, and $725,000 goes to the property owner. This scenario is based on a 30% ITC assumption. We've also provided a 40% ITC assumption if that is possible to be secured for the project. And that would provide a cumulative financial benefit. It increases from about $1.2 million to $1.33 million. So all these figures on the screen here would be, specified and finalized through, full diligence and project development. But overall, it shows a compelling financial benefit delivered not only to the property owner, but also to the tenants. And these are affordable housing sites. So these are really, really meaningful benefits that can be provided through solar. So we're excited to share this and to really share the opportunity that's available now in Connecticut for affordable multifamily. We encourage contractors to get in touch if they're interested in learning more about our financing product, and affordable housing providers to also get in touch to take advantage of all of the resources that we provide through the Solar Map program. So that's all from me, and I'll turn it back to Rudy.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you very much. Now we're going to provide an update on our environmental infrastructure programs, and I'm going to turn it over to Lee Welpton, who's the Director of Environmental Infrastructure Programs here at the Green Bank.
Thanks, Rudy. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Well, very excited to share an update on environmental infrastructure at the Green Bank with you all today. For folks who've been following along, the passage of Public Act 21115 in June 2021 enabled a new phase of the Connecticut Green Bank's efforts to carry out our mission, signaling a broadened scope and deepened commitment to environmental infrastructure in addition to our focus on clean energy, and provided us really with a framework to innovate and mobilize investment in projects that confront climate change by addressing the urgent need for environmental infrastructure, which includes structures, facilities, other improvement projects related to water, waste and recycling, climate adaptation and resiliency, agriculture, land conservation, parks and recreation, and environmental markets. So we can go to the next slide here. And really over the past 2 to 3 years, the Green Bank has been engaging deeply with the stakeholder community across these different environmental infrastructure sectors and have produced a series of primers to wrap our heads and minds around each sector, the key public policies that are influential, market potential of various types of strategies and approaches, relative funding and financing programs, and so on, to really identify general opportunities for the Green Bank to engage across these types of opportunities. So just a quick update, it's not out yet, but our waste and recycling primer is our final primer in this process and is anticipated to be out in just the next couple of weeks by mid-February. So we can go to the next slide. And we'll give just a little preview of that primer by sharing that our initial strategy development has been on areas where there is alignment with organizational capacity, experience, and expertise. So this includes solar PV and battery storage end of life to assess existing technology deployed in solar PV and battery storage programs, both those administered by the Green Bank and by other entities, to identify strategies to reuse, recycle, and dispose of these products. Expanding and scaling organic waste management. So assessing various opportunities to scale up solutions to organic waste management, including strategies to prevent, rescue, and recycle these materials. And this strategy really follows from the Green Bank's successful investment in quantum biopower and AgGrid Fort Hill Farms, both anaerobic digester programs that process food scraps and other organic materials through the anaerobic digestion process. And then more broadly support the state, so support DEEP's goals for waste management and recycling, especially in an evolving political climate. So this is really a broad approach, or our focus within the potential broad approach, and very complex issue of waste and recycling across the state. And will really help us, we think, to plug in a meaningful way and an additive way to solutions to the waste and recycling crisis in the state. And next slide. In tandem with the launch of this waste and recycling primer, we're also hitting the ground running with implementation. So looking to bring financial solutions to in-state organic waste management, processing, logistics, and infrastructure that can include equipment and technology deployment. So bringing up here the Green Bank's Capital Solutions Program, which for projects that do not meet other programmatic criteria, Green Bank Capital Solutions is a really key way that we can, with board approval, review through competitive selection and award of an open RFP process, a type of project finance. So it allows us to receive requests from the market to finance projects within the scope of our comprehensive plan. And the thing I'll note is its broad applicability and the open rolling RFP process, and how that really makes it an ideal tool to help us implement against the broad needs and opportunities associated with the expanded mission for environmental infrastructure. So that is to say, if you have a project that would benefit from flexible lending, especially related to organic waste management solutions, the environmental infrastructure team would very much love to hear from you. And I'll wrap it up there. Back to you, Rudy.
Thank you. Excellent update on the environmental infrastructure side of things. Now I'm going to turn it over to David Beach, our Senior Manager of Clean Energy and Investment Finance, to give some exciting updates on our Green Liberty Notes program.
Thanks, Rudy. Yeah, I'm excited to talk to everyone today about our Green Liberty Note program. As Brian mentioned earlier, this is a part of the Green Bank's work that's involved with market transformation. So our Green Liberty Notes, they are 1-year fixed interest notes. So they function kind of like a CD from a bank, where you invest your money and after a year you'll get your money back with interest. So the example there is, if the interest rate were say 5%, you would invest $1,000 and after a year you get $1,000 back, an additional $50 of interest earned. And we also have been offering the opportunity to actually reinvest. So if you like the program, you can then go ahead and reinvest those proceeds to start taking advantage of compound interest. So our Green Liberty Notes, they support the Small Business Energy Advantage program, which means they're supporting small businesses that are pursuing energy efficiency projects. You can see the great example of what one of these projects can do on the right. A family farm saved $85,000 on the utility bills every year. You can see that's equivalent to removing 33 cars off the road for a year, and it's encompasses a lifetime carbon emission savings of 237 tons. Moving back to the left side here, a couple of great things to note is that these notes have been designated a green bond by an independent verifier named Kestrel. And then the next bullet is where we're really getting into market transformation. You can invest in this for just $100 and having some way to pay and an internet access. Previously, the Green Bank had issued what we call our Green Liberty bonds, which were available on the municipal bond market. And we did our best to reduce the upfront cost as much as we could. However, the cheapest we could get those investments were $1,000 each. And so that's why we pursued our Green Liberty Notes, which are issued via crowdfunding, which allows us to offer these without the need to have a broker and for just $100. So more people than ever can actually be involved in investing in the green economy. So, you know, a bunch of my colleagues have talked about our work to help spur investment into Connecticut's green economy. And the Green Liberty Notes now offer Connecticut residents and actually folks from across the country to invest alongside us and earn some of the benefits of this growing sector. And so if you're looking to invest, our next issuance is going to be coming in mid-February. So look out for that. Going to the next slide. For those of you who've invested in the Green Liberty Notes before or have heard about them, we have been working with a crowdfunding platform called Raise Green for over a couple of years now. And we are very excited to announce and share that Raise Green has actually been acquired by Honeycomb Credit, which is another crowdfunding platform. And so we will now be issuing our Green Liberty Notes on Honeycomb's platform. We're really excited because Honeycomb has a really great track record, especially in terms of helping small and community-tied businesses. So they've helped more than 400 small businesses raise more than $32 million. And so we here at the Green Bank are really excited about this new change. And so to also help support our investors who have supported the program before and want a little bit more support and information about this transition, we are actually hosting a webinar that's going to be on February the 11th, starting at noon. And on that webinar, we're going to introduce in more detail than I am right now, Honeycomb Credit, answer any questions from investors about their account transferring from Raised Green to Honeycomb, and then also that recording, if you're not able to make it, will be available to those who are able to register. So again, this is exciting news for the Green Bank. Honeycomb has a great team. We're going to be able to reach more investors. And with some of the great things that Honeycomb has going, the Green Bank is looking forward to doing more issuances on crowdfunding so we can get more Connecticut residents and retail investors involved in some of these great programs and work that my colleagues have shared with you in the past 45 minutes. So I will be around to answer questions about the Green Liberty Note program when we get to questions at the end. But for now, I will pass it back to Rudy and say thank you all for attending and giving me a few minutes to talk about this.
Thank you, David. Yeah, very exciting stuff on the Green Liberty Notes. If you're listening to this webinar and you want to get an email from us when the next offering goes live, please reach out. We'd be happy to add you to that distribution list so you can be among the first people to get into this new offering that we'll put out through Honeycomb Credit. Exciting stuff. Great. Now I'm going to turn it back to Brian Garcia for some closing thoughts.
All right, that was great. Thank you, team, for all of that. Rudy, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So in addition to all of the great things that the team is working on that you just heard a lot about, I wanted to give you all a sense of our priority areas of focus this year. Let me just start off with supporting Governor Lamont, investing in resilience. I was using a number earlier of $1.2 trillion invested globally to confront climate change when we need $3 to $6 trillion. Some 90% of that investment is in mitigation of greenhouse gas emissions and 10% is in climate adaptation and resilience. We need to work really, really hard to increase investment in climate adaptation and resilience. You heard from Rudy, you heard from Lee, both of our Smarty loan programs for homeowners is now available for climate adaptation and resilience. Our commercial property assessed clean energy program is now available for resilience. So we are going to work to support the governor and his bill. Last year it was SB 11. We think it might be SB 9 this year. Our whole focus is to really work to supporting that bill, unlocking more investment in resilience improvement districts. So we're on commercial property assessed clean energy. We have seen 139 of our 169 cities and towns voluntarily adopt to take a benefit assessment and put a benefit assessment on a property to support over 400 properties, unlocking $350 million of investment. We want to see that similar tool beyond properties and focus on communities or resilience improvement districts. We think if we see community action, community level support for resilience improvement districts, that we can use the same public policy mechanisms to unlock a lot of investment to increase the resilience of our communities, while at the same time working with the insurance industry to recognize that investment of improved resilience in reducing their premiums for insurance for all of those businesses and contributing that as an investment to those communities. So we're going to be working really closely with the governor and his team on that bill this session. Second, Emily did a bang up job talking about our investing in affordable housing. Just a big shout out to Senator Lopes, who led the passage of Public Act 2148, specifically Section 2, which unlocked the affordable housing space in the Residential Renewable Energy Solutions Program. Single family 1 to 4 in the RS program is doing great. Our utility colleagues have really elevated the deployment of solar PV in that program. We want to open up new markets so that other families, those who are renters in affordable housing, can benefit from the clean energy economy as well and reduce their energy costs, while at the same time finding opportunities to increase their energy security, especially for those residing with home medical device needs, so that when the grid is out, they're still up and running. So reducing energy costs, increasing energy security, our team's super focused, and all of that. The product there that Emily was talking about really digs in there. And then lastly is supporting Senators Cohen, Senators Haskell, Commissioner Dykes in implementing Public Act 22-25. Specifically within that Public Act is a target to deploy zero-emission school buses by 2030 in environmental justice communities and all school districts by 2040. So we need to find ways of applying the Green Bank model, because the level of investment is in the billions of dollars. It's going to be required not only to replace the existing school buses, but also to build out the recharging infrastructure that's going to be required to support the refueling of those buses. So our team is working really, really hard, Sarah Harari, Kevin Moss, to build out those programs with our colleagues over at DEEP so that we can unlock investment in that market. So those are things to come, just giving you a little sense of that alongside all of the other investment activity that the team is doing. So with that, let me turn it back to you, Rudy, and we'll take Q&A.
Great, thank you, Brian. So a number of questions have come in. I do want to flag, as I said at the beginning, that we likely won't get to all of them. So if you have questions that we don't get to, we'll reach out to you, do the best we can to follow up directly with you. But as always, feel free to email us at the email address you see on the screen, or go to our website and complete a contact form, and keep the dialogue going. We're always happy to hear from folks and answer questions. So the first question that I wanted to ask, hold on one second here. Yeah, there was a question early on about what program the Green Bank might offer that could help golf courses. I thought it was a really interesting question, because a lot of golf courses that it says here already have electric golf carts, and they might be a prime target for commercial solar or battery storage or other improvements. So just going to put that out there.
Why don't I take a stab, and then Lee, feel free to add in if I go off base a little bit here. I mean, I think in general, golf courses, I think, would be treated as obviously a non-residential end-use customer. So, anything in the non-residential renewable energy solutions program in terms of incentives for things like solar would be something that they would want to look at. But obviously, any facility or building that is consuming energy at those golf courses, you want to do energy efficiency, make yourself efficient first, right? That's super important. If you want to do, I would suspect that a lot of golf courses already have rechargeable golf carts, right? I feel like we've all ridden in them. But secondly, I also think, just thinking about golf courses in the context of parks, and thinking about the need to make ourselves more resilient to the impacts of climate. What's the role of golf courses in terms of flood control, right? Is there a way that golf courses in their design can play a role to take more stormwater and store it for a little bit, and to allow our ecological systems the ability to absorb those intense rainfalls that we've been experiencing more later? So I think we need to just start looking at all of our community investments and assets in new ways to not only reduce GHGs, reduce energy costs, but also thinking about the services that those lands can provide in terms of protecting ourselves against the impacts of climate. Lee, I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
Brian, I think you did a really good job covering some of the resilience aspects of where, certainly there's potential for golf courses to serve as a sponge in increasingly wet conditions. The other thing we might just add and layer on there is different project potential for water quality management and water quantity management improvements. So if resilience covers some of the quantity management, other things that can help on the quality management side that, for example, could increase a golf course's ability to provide protection for surface water and groundwater. So obviously a lot in the details there to figure out what would be mission aligned with our financing capacity. But if you're really thinking about being a good sustainable steward of a golf course in terms of land management, and have some thinking for resilience, stormwater, or water quality improvements, please do get in touch.
Yeah, that's a great question and a great potential for exploration. So to the folks who are in that space, reach out. Question here that I think Ed would be a great person to answer this. Um, the question is, can single-family residential solar panels be installed in the yard rather than on a roof?
Thanks, Rudy. Yes, so while the Green Bank doesn't have incentive programs for solar, we do offer financing through Smarty, and ground mount systems are they're not as common as rooftop, but they are certainly permitted.
Perfect. Thank you, Ed. A question for David about the notes. Um, the question is, what is the present yield on the notes, and is it taxable?
Yeah, thank you. We are not issuing and we're not back out with our next issuance until the middle of February. And there are some SEC rules about what I can and cannot say about that interest rate. But what I can tell you is the latest issuance offered a 5.25% interest. So if you invest $100, you get $105.25 back at the end of the year. And similarly, in terms of taxable interest, we do give out 1099 T, I think is the name. 1099s is a form you might get from your bank and anywhere else where you've earned interest. Interest income is taxable. I won't go beyond that because I'm not a CPA. I can't give any tax advice, but the Green Bank does send to all of our investors those tax forms for any year in which they received interest income from the Green Bank. So that's as easy as if you use like a software, you can submit that form information into your TurboTax or whatever you use, or you can just send that to your accountant, or if you do it yourself, you can use it yourself. But yes, the interest income is taxable, and I'm not sure what the interest rate will be, but our past couple interest rates have been in the 5% range, but it does fluctuate according to the market interest rates. So as we've heard about them changing over the past couple of years, our Green Liberty notes have shifted as well. Generally, the interest rate is about the same as probably the best 1-year CD you could find, and usually a little bit higher. So hope that answered the question.
Yeah, that's a great answer, David. Yeah, usually very competitive and going to support something green and local for Connecticut. So stay tuned for the next issuance coming in February. So one final question I'm going to put out there. This is it's a multifamily. There's a couple of multifamily questions that have come in. So um, I think more depth than we can provide at the 1 o'clock time, but um, briefly on multifamily. Could multifamily programs cover carport solar? Um, and how is that benefit shared with the tenants, Emily?
Thanks, Rudy. Yes, we can consider carport type installations as well as ground mount and rooftop. And the benefits of the RRES program can be delivered to the tenants either through an on-bill credit or through a building upgrade. And it's determined how by who pays the utility bills at each site. So if the tenant pays their own utility bills, then the utilities have the ability to provide a credit right there on their electric bill. If the landlord or the property owner pays the bills on behalf of the property, then that benefit is delivered through some sort of upgrade to the property. And there's a list of approved upgrade measures that can be done in order to ensure that the living condition, the quality of life is improved for tenants.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you so much, Emily. Thank you to all of our attendees today. Lots of great questions. We'll follow up with folks where we ran out of time. Thank you to all of my colleagues for this great presentation today. And as always, reach out to us with any questions going forward, and have a great day.